I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first thing to do is act on the agenda.
I would like to add the municipal planning grant discussion.
Okay.
And anything connected with that.
Okay.
Wherever you think is good. I don't know.
Under new business?
Yeah, okay. But I don't know what order, so.
We'll do it C, under new business. Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I make the motion that we add the municipal planning grant discussion
I
to
sent
today's meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Act on the minutes of March 10th.
I move we accept them as offered.
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. Who doesn't want to start?
Perfect.
Ton of public, no comment?
I actually would like to commend our road crew for doing such a great job this winter, and they filled the huge potholes in the road at the top of North Hill, which was a blessing, so
Nice.
we appreciate that.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Pass that on to them. Yeah, I agree. They did a great job.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll move on to.
I know why I came in. Maybe
Others?
this is going to come up later, but there was going to be discussion maybe about the town meeting for next year. Is that later on the agenda? I didn't.
It is.
Okay, and we can chime in there as the public just now.
Let me see here. Yeah, it's not right now. When it comes up on the.
Okay, so
on the
this
agenda.
is not our only opportunity to
No.
talk. This is like the open session.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So now we'll go on to new business. The reappraisal update.
Okie dokie. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'll stay right here. Nemrick has completed the reappraisal as of values as of April 1st, and they're going to be mailed out a official change of appraisal notice, which is 16 pages, which has what the process is, about the hearings, and then lists all the properties in town, the new value, the old value, homestead value, house site value, and the description amount of acreage. Just the same thing that basically came out with the last reappraisal in 2018. So you can see what your value is, what the old value is, and compare it to other properties. There's going to be informational hearings or pre-grievance hearings on April 14th and 15th at the town hall. Between 9 and 3. You have to make an appointment. I have a spreadsheet on my desktop to make appointments. And then the formal grievance hearings will be on May 1st and May 2nd. So tax rates obviously will not be set until we have a final grand list. Everything's finalized with the grievances, and then of course everything goes to the state for approval, and then of course they come up with the education values. So I'll just run through a couple of things. So the interesting thing was right now for 24 the taxable grand list was 1 million was 1% of the total thing. So it's 1,620,435, and now it's an increase to 3,144,333. So that's 1% of the total appraised value of taxable grand list. So that's pre-grievance. Things may be lower. I'm just going to read through a couple of things on there. Okay, so the reappraisal at current market values and previous assessments are statutorily required for reporting, but have no bearing on what current assessments are. And this doesn't have any bearing on current use values or veterans exemptions. Those are things that are separate. And the tax rate will be set, like I just said, after the completion of the formal hearings and after the state finalizes the statewide rate. So do not, they put this warning in there, do not equate a change in assessment with a change in tax amount. The like I said, the informal hearings, are an opportunity for property owners to review the data and the new value with an assessor from NEMRIC. And they will be conducted either by phone or in person at the town hall, on the 14th and 15th. And they have set up a website, and this will be on the notice, that is www.nemric.info/Andover, another slash, which will, you can view and print your property data by going to the NEMRIC online website. And we expect to be fielding lots of calls and be filling in my spreadsheet here. Any questions about the whole thing?
Did all property values in Andover increase?
Yes, basically, all property values increased except for a couple of pieces of land, because a couple of things went down, small lots, because things on Howard Hill, they adjusted the land value for a couple things, but generally, everything went up. And it's pretty much the same across the board. One particular thing is like the septic increased from 10,000 to 20,000 across the board. So right off the bat, everything, if you have a well, 5,000, septic, 20,000, 25,000 right there.
Susan?
I might be confused, so, but, so this was a statistical reappraisal.
Yeah,
So is there a way to know whether your property was one that was actually looked at, or?
Okay, that's a good question, Susan, because a statistical reappraisal basically means they're not going inside, but they actually visited every property on the outside.
Oh, they did? Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
So, well, the good thing about that was because we have so many constructions going on, that they were able to pick up a lot of those things. And we have several large houses that are in, being constructed at the moment. So of course, because of the way the law is, you can only tax for so much that's completed on April 1st. A lot of these things aren't going to be completed, so they're a partial thing in this grand list. And so that will allow me for next year to complete those, because the guys have this in the system already for the sketches of the buildings and everything.
If you don't mind.
No.
So my impression is that if an appraiser came to my house, I personally would want them to see the inside of my house, so they wouldn't make overly optimistic assumptions about what it looked like. But I didn't even know they were there. Did they go inside any houses? Was that an option?
They went inside a few. Okay, so when this whole thing started, they did a data quality check. So they had 30 randomly picked properties that they selected, and then some of those they did go inside, because basically that was to see how good our data was from the 2018 reappraisal. So in the case of a lot of houses, things really haven't changed, older things. But what this was getting was additions or new houses. We got a lot of places that didn't exist then. So it's been a lot of pieces that, a house has been built on, it was a raw piece of land in 2018. So some of those I had added to the system and everything before that, but they're bringing, basically it's the overall values of everything going up to reflect what the current market is.
Right.
Because everything has been selling for a lot more than what our values were. Like everywhere else.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Moving on to the next town meeting time.
Mark Bowden. I would just say for people who work, and don't get home and work further away, starting at 5 o'clock is, it just isn't friendly. And to have the vote every time be done by the people that can make it early and not, take into account people that can't make it at 5 o'clock, I think it's really goes against what, town meeting's supposed to be about, which is participation. So I just think starting at 5 o'clock, starting an hour later would make a big difference, I think, for a lot of people.
So just to be clear, your recommendation is we start at 6?
Mm-hmm.
And this is just not exactly the same question, but is Monday evening ideal for you, or would you
I mean, I don't think, if it's a weekday, it doesn't really matter. I think for most people, it's just.
We've already made that
to
decision.
Yeah, I know, I understand that we already made that
Yeah.
decision, but I'm just gathering information.
Yeah, I mean, to accommodate, you know, people that work further
Mhm.
from here, and there's not a whole lot of jobs real close to Andover. So I think for people who work further away, having it at 5 o'clock is limiting. I honestly don't know of anything else that starts at 5 o'clock, you know, and outside anything, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
That might be good for, old people. How about the younger people that maybe work in the second shift? That kind of excludes them as far as a weeknight.
It would seem to me that whatever time you pick is going to be inconvenient for somebody,
It will.
okay? So, for me, I think it is so important I will get there whatever time it is,
I agree with that.
okay? Because it's a once a year opportunity to tell these guys and ladies what we want them to do, right? I think it's important, and for me personally, I'll do whatever I have to in order to be there.
And oftentimes, I think, participation is weather dependent.
Of course,
You know,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
So this year, we had beautiful weather, and we had, 85, 90 people there, and not room for everybody to sit. Another year, it might be a blizzard, and nobody shows up, regardless of what time.
Well, I mean, there was a time not very long ago, a couple of years, when it had to be called to order and then recessed until a later date because nobody was there.
So I think there's always going to be
Yeah,
fluctuations in
sure.
attendance and various things.
thank you.
Can I
Sure.
chime in? So, I had a question, and I'm wondering, because I like to think about how to get everyone to a meeting. So I had a couple of thoughts. One was, it sounds like there's gonna be a survey that goes out, so that's, I think, a great idea. And I don't know if that was the select board gonna send out a survey, and then planning it early, I think, was discussed at the meeting too. Like, it's on people's calendars, I think they'll be able to make it. I personally like earlier, just because I go to bed at like 8, so if I'm, I'm like looking at the clock, ready to like go to bed here soon. But my real question is, could we do a fundraiser of sorts to draw people in? You know, I was thinking just like totally off the cuff, like if it's allowed, like sell chili but for $5 a bowl, and then that money goes to either that nurse lady that came that was super nice, or the scholarship fund or something, or make it an event kind of out of it to draw some of the, I think there's talk of like the younger people to come, and maybe food would draw people at the dinner time. I don't know, I'm trying to think of ways to make it kind of a, maybe fundraiser and a fundraiser as well. So I don't know if that's allowed at a town meeting, if it's...
I don't know, it's a law for town meeting to add that to the plate.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
But, right.
yeah.
We do have food,
Yeah.
normally what committee is it that puts the food together? Project committee,
Has.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
Refreshment.
Refreshment,
Yeah. Because it used to be like a little bit, I think it was pre-pandemic, and it was Saturday. It was just like everybody
Right.
brought something, and it was more kind of organized
That was
in my
when we had
mind.
all-day meetings.
Yeah, and it was like A through C brings something, like that's in my mind, what I remember. But I was just thinking of different ways to
but it would
always draw
be fun to
people.
put more food into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, that's where my mind goes. It's like people come if there's not just like a cookie, if it's like extra. So that was my 2 cents.
Good thought. Yeah, thank you.
Perhaps
Yeah.
if it was an hour before, the meeting, the official meeting, so we could have a sort of a little mini event before it, but I think we wouldn't want to intrude on the time.
Right, yeah, it would have to be, it was just ideas,
Right.
throwing it all out there and then see what sticks or
Right.
doesn't, you know?
Right.
That was the idea.
Okay,
My 2 cents, thanks.
thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else? No, okay. So let's move on to the next on our agenda, which would be the MERP bid, old business.
New business, Robin, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Planning grant resolution.
The MPG planning grant resolution. I'm sorry about that. So what have you gathered for information on that? I've looked at.
So, yeah, it's best, I guess, if I summarize it, because I probably know the least, and then people can add more as we go along. My understanding is that the town is supposed to update its planning and its, what's the second thing, zoning, right?
May I substitute?
Please.
The issue before you is the town has a town plan which was adopted 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It runs out next year.
At the end of the year, or?
Somewhere in August, I think. But I would like to be prepared way before then. And along with the town plan, which is mostly a philosophical statement of what we think we want the town to look like in 10 years. And in order to make it effective, to implement the provisions of that statement, we have adopted a zoning regulation, which very specifically has authority to grant permits, deny permits, or make sure that people that wish to make an improvement on the land conform to the requirements of the zoning regulations. That's what the chore is. In order for that to happen, as you know, the Planning Commission is a core of volunteers who have no specific knowledge about what planning issues need to be addressed, what requirements the state has added to the process in the last 8 years, and what we need to do in order to implement it or make the changes to the zoning ordinance. So that's what that grant is for. In order for us to get the help that we need, we have inquired with the Regional Planning Commission. They have the staff to give us the hand that we need, and the state has made available money in order for us to pay for them. So the Planning Commission last week or 2 weeks ago met and voted to apply for the planning grant. It's about $30,000, I think, if I remember the number, because it's a year and a half process that we will be looking at. So the chore for you is to decide whether you want to apply for the planning grant.
To that, what I've learned is, so I've been in contact with Martha, and a project description was developed for the grant. And as far as I know, this project description is what would help decide whether or not we receive the money. I believe that's
Sure. Yeah.
okay. And we apparently didn't have any input as far as the town into the description.
Correct.
For the grant. And I was surprised at some things. There's a lot of verbiage about housing scarcity, low and moderate income households. It says Andover will focus on changes that will encourage the creation of housing types and sizes that are affordable for those most impacted by the tight housing market. So the face page, if you will, of our proposal says that we've already decided we are dedicated as a town toward increasing low and moderate income housing. And in addition to that, it says an increase in the number of affordable housing units sufficient to the needs of community members with low to moderate incomes is the desired primary long-term outcome of this project. So there are statements in this cover page, if you will, that sort of sets the agenda for what this grant would work toward. And I thought it would be good if, instead of someone not consulting with us as a town, developing this cover statement for the proposal, if we developed the cover statement for the proposal, if we're going to seek a grant. Otherwise, it seems that someone else has determined what our goals are. And I would prefer that the town determine what our goals are.
And I agree with Rich on that. My concern is that we received this grant to sign, yet I saw no paperwork with it that gave those statements. And I said, I can't sign something that I don't understand because I'm signing it on behalf of all the taxpayers. So that's when we started digging a little bit deeper and came up with, well, this is what we would be required to do. And I'm a little skeptical of what that entails and what else would go with that. I've also, the town plan, the way I read it, is it can be readopted as is. So that's one of the things that I think, do we have to write a new town plan? I mean, we could just readopt it as is as well. I know that that's not what you're in favor of, Joe.
Well, that is not my choice.
I understand.
The town plan, excuse me. Go ahead.
Okay.
The town plan needs to be readopted, and it also needs to be updated to reflect all of the statistical information that the state has put together over the last 8 years, and it doesn't contain that now.
Well,
so we cannot readopt the plan as it is.
Well, could we add that into it and readopt the plan as is with that information tagged into it, is my question, so that we aren't actually changing what was put in place already. Susan?
Thank you, Rich. Did any of the verbiage in that come from the planning commission, or was that from our local planning commission, or was that truly totally just from the county? Like, I don't know, because did you guys have any input to that?
The verbiage is precisely that. What
From
the
the
state
county
requires to be in the application.
Oh, so we wouldn't get a grant unless we said that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because the state, in its wisdom, has passed 2 pieces of legislation this year that deal with housing. And the legislature is very serious about making grants to towns that reflect that kind of priority. Okay.
So we would be committed to that path.
We're not. You're not committed to anything.
I have a question. Go ahead.
Excuse me.
No, go ahead.
I'm trying to explain what the rationale is and what the reasons are for how these things happen the way they happen. It's because the legislature has decided that each town will have a town plan.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do that, they give you money to hire some people to do it right. And then they say, 8 years, you got to redo it again. And in order to implement the town plan, this town has, in 1972, decided to adopt zoning regulations. Okay? Those have been updated several times in my tenure, I know that. And it's time again, because if we're going to redo the town plan, we need to look at the zoning regulations. It makes no difference to me. If we get the money, we will present to this board a copy and a suggestion. This is the town plan you, board, will adopt or submit to the townspeople. It is your product that is eventually going to go out there. We will give you a draft of what's possible.
My problem with it is this, that the description of the grant proposal describes initiatives that we have not yet decided on, and anyone reading it would expect us to follow through.
Right.
Would normally expect us to follow through. If we sign off that this is what we intend to do, and then we say, oh, fooled you, we just wanted the money to redo our planning, I'm not comfortable
I'm not
with that.
comfortable with that either.
I'm not either.
Am I?
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I was very surprised at the verbiage, because when it was introduced last time, these were sorts of possibilities, but it didn't get to this level of statement of commitment.
Correct. And then what we were given is what we need to sign, but then as we did, we looked through what that actually entails, and this is what we've come up with, that we are signing a contract. So
I wonder if I can see a couple of paths, because right now I feel there's not a lot of support for signing it right here tonight. So one, I wonder, can we modify this draft statement? It's said to be a draft statement. We've only received it today, but it's said to be a draft project description. Can it be modified? Or if it's modified, to not include the initiatives that the regional planning would like us to do? Does that mean that it would fail as a grant proposal? So there's sort of two questions there. What I'm saying is, if we could have a moment to work on what we would like to actually engage in with planning and write that up, modify this document. Is that something that could be acceptable to the hires up in the state that engage in the planning and that would help us do the planning?
And that would be Martha. Is Martha on?
Somebody from Scotland Regional Commission is on. Oh, she just unmuted. It might be them. Oh, there she is.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So originally when I first talked to Joe, we talked about just redoing your town plan. It's a fairly short document, and your zoning regulations were last redone in 2016, I think. Yeah. So they were never updated after the last time you did your town plan. So since they exist to implement your town plan, and they're quite out of date, it occurred to me that since both documents are fairly short, maybe you could do both of them, which is unusual. Usually these municipal planning grants are for one or the other, or an entirely different type of plan. So I checked with the agency that offers the grants, and they said they could do that. They don't normally do that, but if there was a specific focus, such as housing, for example. So then I asked Joe, do you think that the town would be interested in having a housing focus to this? And that was discussed a little bit at your, I think, February 24th meeting. And as I recall, the main concern was that it eventually go to the town for a vote, and that you all did not want to be required. The discussion at that meeting was focused a lot on changing the zoning map so that you had, maybe you have a 1 acre district in addition to your 2 acre district, something along those lines. And there wasn't a decision, and you don't need to make a decision. It was just, that's one example of something you could do that would help make housing more affordable? Because certainly smaller lots are less expensive than larger lots. Doesn't mean your entire town would have to be a 1 acre district, and it doesn't even mean that you would have to adopt a 1 acre district. It's just one example of something.
Did you hear our question that we were asking if, because we are concerned with the verbiage in the agreement, could we rewrite the agreement ourselves?
Or offer
Suggestions?
You mean the grant application?
the project description.
Possibly. I mean, the deadline is March 31st.
One of my biggest concerns is that we just got this project description today. I read the grant and it says we need to abide by the project. It goes on to say about the project description. So then we look at that, and so we are, as a board, a little concerned that we got it today and now we're being asked to sign something on behalf of the town that we are not really comfortable with all the verbiage in it.
Right. That's possible. But like I said, there's a week. So I guess it's, if you can give feedback fairly quickly.
Does the grant come around? Does the grant come around each year?
Yes. Yep. You can, you could.
If we miss the cutoff, and we have 2026 to actually put in place the town plan. I know that's a lot, putting it all together. I keep going back to that we can readopt our town plan as written. It is to do that.
So for your town plan to be, if you want the regional planning commission to approve it and say that it complies with all the state planning goals, if you just readopt it as is, it probably would not, because as Joe was saying, there's a number of laws that have passed in the interim. So, yeah, I mean, if you wait until next year to apply, then you may only have 2 or 3 months to redo your plan, which is probably not enough time.
Are we required to make those changes in our plan, or is it a suggested only?
There are certain things that are required. I mean, your housing, one of the reasons I suggested focusing on housing is because your housing chapter is fairly out of date, and it doesn't include such things as, the state now wants you to have specific targets for a number of new houses that will be created in town, and how specific actions about how you're going to go about making sure that those targets are met. I mean, they're not going to, if you have a target of building 25 houses in the next 10 years, they're not going to come back to you in 10 years and say, you didn't do it, and, penalize you somehow. But they want towns to be more specific in their town plans than they have been in the past. So
one of the challenges here is that there's no guarantee that certain actions or changes would achieve anything. So for example, a 1 acre lot here versus a 2 acre lot here is not going to make it affordable for someone to build a home. So for example, if you're trying to build a home nowadays, it's probably a full-size home. It's going to cost you, let's say, $450,000 to build a home. Okay. And if you buy a 1 acre lot, I have a new neighbor, has a new house. It's a vacation home, right? You got 3 acres for $66,000, $700, 66.7, right? 66,000, 3 acres. I don't think he could get a 1 acre lot for $23,000. And I don't think it would make it affordable for him, more affordable for a person. So to say, I want to finish my talk just as you do.
Yeah.
So, to say that by reducing the acreage, for example, in a zone, and pretend that that will increase affordable housing is a premise that I don't have any data for. Do you understand what I'm saying? There are these premises that are being made, like, okay, if we made this change, it would increase low-income affordable housing. I don't know if that's true or not. So I can't say that it would be worthwhile to think about changing things to make things more affordable. I mean, I could see if we were living near a big city where a 2-acre lot was $300,000. Okay, I come from St. Louis. Right, a 2-acre lot would be $1.8 million. Okay, so I could see where bringing it down to a smaller size could make it more affordable. I just don't even know that that's the case here. So there's a lot of things incorporated in this proposal that are still very much up in the air for me. Chris?
Anybody else? Did you have something to say, Joe? I don't want to cut in front of you.
I think I have formed an opinion of where this is going, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse, okay? But the only thing I will say, and in deference to you, we are not here to prove that whatever changes we make is going to be effective.
Seems like a game then.
Yeah.
Right.
What the state requires us to do is to make a statement. Whether it's implementable is fairly normal for a small town like this is immaterial to them. Okay, but that's all I'm going to say. That's all. Thanks.
I just like to do things in good faith, and
I do too, and I like to know what I'm signing way ahead of time because I'm signing on behalf of the taxpayers. I want to know what every single sentence means. Melissa?
I just want to say that, and I think I'm speaking for myself here, but I think I speak for all of us, and that is that because of the size of Andover and because of our tax burden already, I think that for me, I look at these grants, some of these grants from the state, the grants are amazing. Some of them are great for us, but I never want to just take money because there's no free money, usually when it comes from the state. I mean, God bless them, but there's no free money. So I think the work that Rich did is kind of saying, you know, what is the onus going to be? If we just sign this grant and say, let's roll with it, let's just do it, what's the onus going to be on the town at some point where it's like, well, now we need to change the zoning. We need some commercial areas. We need this and that. We don't necessarily want to change what's happening in Andover with all of that because it's working for us right now. And we don't want to add more restriction and more things onto the taxpayers that we don't necessarily need as a town our size. So for me, that's why I support this kind of talking and looking at it. Because I don't want to be the person that then a year from now people are like, well, how did this get changed? And all of a sudden my tax base is different. And how did I get into this zone that could be commercial or could be, you know what I mean? Like, and of course, the town could decide to do those things later on, but I don't want to just broad swipe it. For me personally, that's how I feel about it. Because I don't believe it's free money. I just don't believe it. It's just never free money. You know, it's not.
I think for me, if the proposal said that we were going to study and learn from our residents what they want, I'd be all for it.
That's what I have to say is I think we're putting the cart before the horse. We haven't even had a chance to ask people in town. I mean, I guess that's probably what the planning committee meetings would do is gather information from Andover taxpayers as to what our vision is for the town, but we haven't even had a chance to do that.
And we're signing on to something that has bold statements of what we will do. So that I mean, I don't want to be the first one to make a motion not to sign this, but it is my feeling is this is.
He has something to say.
I kind of want to summarize what I have taken out of everybody's discussion.
Mm-hmm.
It runs out next August, 17 months.
Okay.
Is that correct so far?
Yes.
The grant should be back up in March, before March of next year. So it does, that still gives us 5 months after the grant period to do a new, I don't want to rush. They do a good job. The zoning and planning commission do a good job, and it would suck to rush them. To sign it the way it's, I think, I'll include myself, but from what everybody else says, we don't like to sign what we're asking for, because that's not necessarily what we really want to do. We don't know that, but we're asking, the grant specifically asks, the proposal asks for the money so we can design affordable housing into our town. And we're not sure that's the direction the town actually wants to go with that. But at the same time, the town plan is required to be updated to have modern laws put into it. So it does need to be modified. Whether we adopt it as best we could with the new modifications. Bottom line, and Joe said he didn't want to be a dead horse, none of us are ready to move forward with this grant right now.
Right. So is there a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion that we do not sign for the grant.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you for doing your work on this, and I'm sorry that this is the outcome, but I just feel like we're all really that once we sat down to read what the document we received today, it's just too soon. I mean, I don't even think the rest of the board has had a chance to really read the document in its entirety and the way that this grant would be implemented. And so I'm sorry.
So you don't want to modify it. You just don't want to apply for a grant this year. Is that what I'm hearing?
I would like the opportunity to modify it and present it to the board for review and see if there's support for a modified version that could include some of the goals, but be less of a statement that we are going to, like some of the things in here, just some of the things that are listed. These all sound like promises to me that make me uncomfortable. And
I agree.
And I would like to modify have the opportunity to modify the verbiage, working with you if possible, hopefully, and see if we can get support for it, and then if it becomes a viable grant proposal.
And then would you like to do that, is the motion that you're making that we would do that prior to, for this year or next year? Because we're kind of on a time restraint, and I worry that
if this
all
one
of us
has to
meeting
go
together.
March 31st,
Right.
and today is,
Right.
Yeah, that's probably too soon.
what is it? What's today?
Today's the 24th.
24th.
1 week.
Okay, so let's say that we could get a new draft done on the 26th. Then distribute it to the board. We could potentially have a special meeting. I don't know if there's interest in that.
Go ahead. I would like to hear what the rest of the board says.
I'm not opposed to anybody trying to, it's a pretty tight timeline. I mean, I guess I'm concerned, I think it's clear from what Joe is saying that we're gonna have to pay out of pocket a fair amount to get a new town plan if we don't take a grant, but I don't want the grant as it's written this way. I don't know like what it's cost in the past to
$30,000, $33,000.
Yeah, well, I know, but did Andover have a grant the last time? I mean, did we just kind of
Well, we don't, if we can get a grant, we'd want one, but my thought is that why wouldn't we modify it for next year? And I know that,
Right.
but it doesn't really if we're looking at the fact that, yes, indeed, we would most likely get this grant next year, why couldn't the Joe and his group, the zoning, start looking at all those things throughout the year?
And having public hearings,
right,
what do we want?
Because this is our public today.
Mhm.
And this isn't enough public to make those decisions on something that's going to, well, I mean, thank you for being here. But would you want us to, do your kids want us to make those decisions for them to change everything in one night of looking at it?
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm not putting you on, you can tell me no, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like you're willing to work with Martha to try to modify the grant. So could I make a motion that we appoint Rich as our lead person on this? That way we don't
Absolutely,
all have
if he
to be
doesn't
involved.
mind.
I don't mind.
If
Right,
you
I'll
do,
second
just
that.
please speak up, but
No, I'd be happy to do it.
All right, I'll second that.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I've written a lot of grants in my life.
Martha, did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
So Rich will try to work with you this
I'll be
week.
available. I don't know your availability, but, and I don't know if it's fair to ask you to share the electronic document with me, to make potential edits that might better suit what the board is looking for.
And
The only thing, I do have a very busy week. I'm fairly open on Wednesday. Because it's due next Monday, there is a time like 4:00 or something. I don't remember exactly what it is. You would be required to sign this resolution that agrees that you want to apply for the grant. It doesn't have to be the grant that you're looking at right now. It can be the modified one. But if you haven't signed the resolution before the 31st, I mean, that's a part of the application. So
Right.
I'm not sure how you would approach that.
Is the description also part of the application? So.
Yeah, yes. So we'd have to, I hear you want to modify what the application says.
Yes.
I mean, you could scale it way back. You don't have to do both the town plan and the zoning. And if you're not going to do that, you don't have to have a particular focus on housing or something else. You could just apply for a less intensive town plan update only.
So let me ask to understand, Martha, it's the zoning addition to it that is promoting these ideas of housing changes.
I mean, housing is still a big issue in the state, and there have been changes to state laws, and some things will need to change about your town plan, whether you're doing your zoning right now or not. Your town plan isn't the implementation tool, so it's really a vision, and the grant as it's written now did include a public opinion poll. So
Yeah,
that's where
absolutely.
that's where it was going to start. So if you dial it way back, you'd have to ask for less money, of course, if you're not going to do both. Do start with the public opinion poll, revise the town plan, and then stop there. And then when everyone's ready to start looking at zoning in a few years, you can do that.
I have a question. Didn't we just vote that we were going to sort of wait until next year to look, like, didn't we just vote that we were going to table it?
we voted not to sign it.
Okay.
We didn't vote the time frame and not to sign it. My personal thought is that if this grant is available each year, why couldn't we be doing this work and rewriting it for next year? And then I'm really not comfortable with the receiving of this paperwork today and expecting everyone at this table to understand it and present it. I am very comfortable with Rich being the lead on this.
It's worth a try, I think. can give it a try, that it works out, that we could create a new draft, circulate it, agree upon it. I don't know if just simply this project description would need to be modified, or whether there's much more that would need to be modified. But the description is what I was focusing on, and I think I have the capacity to rip that out in 4 hours of work.
Well, go ahead.
I was just saying, let's let Rich work
Let's
on
let
it.
him, let's
And
let
we'll
him,
see where that goes. And if the end of the world is not if we don't sign it at all.
right, because
If it-
we knew
could
this
still
process.
not agree to do it.
We're
Right.
now all very
And you
aware
don't-
of it,
Yeah.
and
Right,
we can
okay.
move forward.
I've got a question. I think you voted not to sign it.
We
did.
voted
We
not
did.
to sign it currently,
Like as
and
written.
then,
Right now.
Right, tonight we are not signing it, but we didn't vote not to sign it for this year. We need to gather more information on what exactly it is that we're being asked
The
to.
verbiage was not to sign it this year, and postpone it to next year.
Well, could we have another vote to change our vote, or?
No.
we're not
Well,
allowed
I
to
didn't
do
think that was our,
My intent was
understanding.
not to sign it, when I proposed that, not to sign it as written.
As written
because
right now.
It's forcing us down a path we are not willing to go at this
We're not
time.
signing this plan. We're not agreeing to this plan as written, is the way I understood it.
And we might not sign
That's
the
how I
next one if
understood
we can't get it modified the way we want it. I think we want it more of a general statement than specific.
Right.
And we might want the town plan separated from the zoning, although
Right.
I understand we couldn't apply for so much money.
Well, we could
if
apply
did
for the
that.
zoning grant at a different time too.
That's correct.
It doesn't have to be all done at once. This
Because
is
the
the thing.
zoning is
It doesn't
no-
need to be all at the same
yeah.
time. So that's where, maybe we want to do it piece by piece. So, does someone want to make a motion that's very clear on what we're,
I would like to make a motion that we appoint, Rich as
we had done that.
to reform. I better not do this because I'm not going to be able to express it.
I'll make it-
Somebody else
I think
can.
that part is done, like I'm
Right.
assigned,
Okay.
okay?
I would make a motion to have Rich do some work on this, bring it back to us, bring it to Martha, bring it back to us, and then we take another look at it if it is within this time frame, and then we decide again. And I know that that's quite a bit for all of us to look at, and we may end up saying, let's wait until next year, because again, we just received this paperwork today. So
And we would
It's a
have to
lot.
have a special meeting.
Yes.
yes, we would call a special meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you understand that, Martha, what we,
Yes, yep.
okay, and everyone in the back?
Okay.
So we're moving on to, I forgot where we're at. MERP. So I've contacted a couple different people, in regards to one of the firms. And it's really it's within our budget, and I've received really wonderful, shining accolades for this firm and what they do and how they work with the public.
Did you make this?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I
Rich
was
did,
doing it.
so I'm going to let Rich take the lead on that. But I did want to say that I've spoken to a gentleman at the Sudbury Planning Commission and asked what they thought about or his experience with Architect firm, and he had nothing but great things to say. They stay on task, the scope of work, they stay with the scope of work, they come up with creative ideas and how to implement things. Attention to detail. These same descriptions of this firm kept coming up over and over again. Shelley, who is the lead in the firm, they couldn't say enough wonderful things about her. I also spoke with a Diane, who is a select board chair of Linchester, which is a small town like us, and they put in one of these historical. They have a historical building, and they've also done very much the same grant. And again, she said, you know, this firm is really great to work with. They are great. They work with the historical preservation as well. They are practical. Shelley keeps up with, works well with her team. They have a team in place. So I've heard nothing bad. Everything that I've heard is positive about this particular, the only one really that we can afford.
That bid.
The bid. So do you
I'll
want to
just add that, at the top here, we have PM fees. Turner Consulting came in at $92,467, which is $16,814 over what is allowed. So, in other words, we'd have to come up with $16,000 out of pocket. Stevens and Associate also were over the amount allowed, $12,000 plus, and Architect came under by $10,982. So Architect is the only one that essentially meets our needs financially, and they have great reviews. I spoke with Architect directly, with Shelley Pottorff. I met with her online as sort of a Zoom meeting, and both her and some designer that she works with, and she's very responsive, set up meetings, sent me emails, plus, you know, there was talk about some specifics. She said that, well, they have 18 projects going in one area alone, so they're managing a lot of work. But everyone who they're working with is pleased. But given that they have all these projects, I asked, what will you make the timeline? And she said that they could be here to do planning in June, and they will get it done on time. So this is the very bottom of this page. I said things that we're concerned about were the hazmat or the vermiculite issue. She said that they have they have familiarity and they have firms that they work with for that sort of thing. I told her also of important to us would be communication and lead times, as far as when does Jeanette and Jonathan need to be out of the office so that they could do some of the work they need. Will we get a heads up several days in advance so that things can be planned and worked out? And she said that the people that she works with, because they work with one group that does all the actual work on the ground, as opposed to working with various contractors, they have one group they work with, and so she said it's easier to control that communication and to make sure it works right. So for me, there's one choice among them because of the financial reasons and that they get great reviews and been responsive.
If I hadn't read this, read the different proposals, I would probably be a little puzzled as to, you know, why the overall contractor fees vary so much. But it seems that Architect is an owner. It's owned by the people doing the work. It's some kind of cooperative, and so they don't have to get all their money from the consulting fees. They also have the companies that are doing the work. I assume that that's the explanation, but I don't know if it is. But that felt really good to me, that these people who are coming and talking to us and being the general contractors are also involved in the companies that are doing the work.
I think it's possible that the two firms are actually disqualified, and I think Martha could speak to that, whether the ones that are over budget on the PM fee should not even be considered because it wouldn't work within the context of the grant.
Right, unless you wanted to cover the additional cost.
Right.
And we don't want to do that
There's
to our
no good reason.
taxpayers.
There's
Right.
no outstanding,
Right.
like, your firm is so much
Right.
better that we should choose them even though it
I
costs
agree.
us more money.
So,
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with hiring Architect to,
I second.
with our project.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I lost track of my agenda. Here we go.
Financial overview.
Financial overview. Jeanette?
Yes, you had wanted to go through the list of bank accounts, I believe.
Do we want to keep that on our agenda today, or do we want to move it to a? Okay, so am I going over them?
I serve with a pleasure.
Um,
You all have a list. If you all still have the list, I'm happy to tell you what every single one of them is.
okay.
If you want to do it. I have another one here if you want to throw them in the copier.
I saw it. I remember seeing it.
I'm watching going around it, right?
This is awesome. We found one of my favorite things ever. Thanks.
Anybody else want one? Know what we're talking about?
Thank you.
Yeah, one for Tom.
Oh, I do have this.
I have it somewhere. Anyone else? More. Pardon me? Okay.
Do you want one, Chris? I can make one.
Nah,
Okay.
Chris is like,
You probably know what they are.
So when I had asked this, you know, to have this put on the agenda, I actually was thinking that you would go over it with us, Jeanette,
Well, I
just
will.
to make sure that we
I
all
absolutely
were
will, so you know what it's for and what it can be used for. I think that was one of the big
Correct.
questions.
correct.
And I think I assumed that you all might be a little shocked at how many bank accounts we have.
Mm-hmm.
So starting at the top, petty cash is exactly what you think it is. It's a metal box in the vault. People pay cash for anything from marriage licenses. Some people pay their taxes in cash, and it goes in the metal box in the vault. It used to be kept track of a little bit differently, but basically, I set it up as another fund in QuickBooks so that it was, everything is an income and expense, just like any of the other bank accounts have, just to make sure that I'm keeping good track of it. The second item on the list is a reappraisal fund. So the state every year gives every municipality a per parcel amount of money to put toward getting its next reappraisal. And it's good that, you know, it takes a few years because obviously they don't give us enough to cover a reappraisal in 1 year.
That's not gonna cover much.
Well, that one has drawn down because I actually started another reappraisal fund at our regular bank, which is TD. The one that says reappraisal fund M&T is, because I'm very unhappy with the services they do or don't provide. The transition from Peoples to M&T was painful. And so I've let that one run out. We paid our last month's bill from the last of that fund. So I think one of the other things that's worth going over for just a minute is, so the general fund checking account is our big bank account. That is the day-to-day. We pay the employees out of there, we pay the light bill out of there, we pay for the fuel, we pay the budget that you all and that our voters look at in this town report. This is the general fund. That's what all of this is. Any of the other accounts are the accounts that you see detailed on other pages in this report because they are earmarked for specific, very specific things. So when someone says, well, did you budget for paving? Paving is a huge expense that normally gets taken out of the highway bridge fund, and that's what that money gets set aside for every year. And yes, if you remember at the very end of this budget, $85,000 was set aside in this last budget, or did this one go up to 100? This one might have gone up to 100.
Yeah.
So that it goes into that highway bridge fund to be used for those large projects, so we're not suddenly taking $150,000 out of the general fund. Municipal taxes, that first installment that we all make in August, that money goes into the general fund, and that's how we pay the bills for the rest of the year. Grant money, most of the time, many times, does go into the general fund, unless, for example, like ARPA, I set up its own bank account for because it had to be accounted for very carefully. So grant money will come in and out of expenses and income for grants, does to some extent. So, for example, the grant that we do every year through the Regional Planning Commission Grants and Aid, which is all the ditching that you see, that money we get reimbursed. So the expenses I have come out of the general fund already. Charlie and I do the paperwork to get reimbursed for all of that, and then the deposit comes back and we see it as an income line because it's actually money that we had already spent from our regular budget the year before, if that makes sense. Anybody have any questions about that, the general fund and how that all works? So the things, the invoices that Robin and maybe sometimes Rich are going to be signing, and the things that you see on those reports, those are all activity in the general fund. The next group of accounts under municipal money market, they are, I call that our umbrella account. So each of these are a specialty account, and they're all rolled up under this one umbrella, which gives us a really good interest rate on the money in those. And that's why you see, $1,500 in interest on the prepaid tax account, for example, and why I try hard to keep prepaid tax money in there, just so we can earn some interest. So the highway bridge fund is specifically for, those big highway and bridge projects. The Pioneer Memorial Society is a combination of our historical society and also a fund that was started in my grandfather's memory when he passed in the 70s, called the Clark Hazeltine Memorial Fund. Those have been rolled together, and we don't have a lot of income or expenses. We get donations once in a while. We've used that money to buy new flags for veterans' graves throughout town. We use some of the money to buy a solar light for the flag out front because by protocol that's supposed to be lit if it stays up all the time. So little things like that. And actually this year, because of there are 3 of us who are the board of the Pioneer Memorial Society, myself and Jonathan and Peter Farrer, and because of the historical significance of the stained glass windows over at the Andover Church, we decided this year to make a donation to their window restoration fund. So we did give them $2,200, I think it was, to go toward, because they all need to be restored, and it's a very expensive project. But because the windows, I don't know if you were all familiar, but they all, a lot of them are dedicated to families that lived here, a really, really long time ago, and we would hate to see anything happen to those. Capital Equipment Fund is the money that we continue to save up to so that we can, ideally, in a perfect world, keep buying our equipment with cash and not have to take out any loans. We have a lease for the loader because we were just at a point where we had just purchased a truck and just couldn't outright purchase a loader, so we do a once-a-year payment for the loader. And it does come out of there. But obviously our next big thing is we'll be paying for the new tandem truck, which, Chris, do you want to make the announcement? It's in Westminster.
Oh my God. Oh, wow.
For a few hours here as well.
Supposed to be here for a few hours if you want to come look at her. We're having a little trouble.
Plows are on it, and you can take the plows off, and then it's got to go back to Westminster.
Oh my God. Really? Now, why does it have to go back?
It's some more work to do.
But
But they need to get the plows off.
Oh.
I don't know where they're gonna put all the extra plows. Are we trading in that one with the plows? Yeah. And Josh is still trying to decide what shade of green he wants the new truck to be, I guess.
The cheapest one.
Oh, the letter.
The one that stays on.
Can I just ask it? This might not be the time to ask it, but it just occurred to me, just because we're looking over our treasures. Does the town own like equipment or things that we don't need or want that we could sell, or like, I just curious.
Well, when you say equipment, I'm thinking like, graders, loaders, and as far
No,
as
but
that
we
goes,
don't
I have no
have
idea.
things, okay.
Not that I can think of.
We don't have things that-
I had spoken to you guys about, I don't think we can sell the piano in the town hall. It needs to be
Right.
given away. I think we have a lot of really big, heavy tables over there that
Right.
need to be given away so we can purchase smaller, more portable
Mhm.
tables.
Yeah, I was wondering about those tables.
But,
Okay.
yeah, I can't think of
Okay,
anything.
I was just a
That's
question.
we might not want. Okay, tax stabilization fund. So that bank account was set up quite a long time ago, basically as a slush fund. And it's always, since I've been here, it's always had about $50,000 in it. When the flood of 23 came along, we realized that $50,000 doesn't go very far. So at some point, I don't know if, if the board decides that it might be a fund that we want to start putting some money back or having more money in just for emergencies of some kind. The next line is the second reappraisal fund, and that one, I think I wrote a check out of that recently, so we are just about out of the reappraisal money that we've saved up, so the rest of it that we owe NEMRIC will have to come out of the general fund, and there'll be a place for that in the budget and be accounted for.
Do we owe them a lot more money?
I can't remember, honestly, I can't remember how long the contract goes. It's probably 3 more months at the most, so $9,000.
Okay.
So we won't,
It's not a huge ding.
yeah, it's not gonna be, $20,000 that we don't
Just
have.
curious.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Prepaid taxes, so many people, pay their education taxes all in one lump sum. Or if we don't owe the money to the state yet, so the good thing about our March due date is we get all those education taxes, and then the state doesn't want their second half until June 1st. So I put all of that money into this account, so we end up with a few $1,000s in interest every year for that. Restoration and Preservation Fund. So that fund was set up because the legislature 3 or 4 years ago passed a law saying that a certain amount of every recording fee that I collect, so when I record something in the land records, it's $15 a page, and $4 of that is now by law has to be set aside to restore or preserve any of our older books and things. Some towns have actually used it, and it could be used toward an online indexing system or something so people could do searches online, and that's certainly something I haven't lost track of looking into that, but the prices that I've seen so far are tens of thousands of dollars, so we just haven't gone there yet. We did have, what was it, Jonathan, 30 years of town reports bound recently?
It was from 62 or 3 up until 2000.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, it was that many.
With everything that hadn't been bound previously, it was 1860.
And again, we're
About
not
100 years
required,
ago now.
we're not required to, but it's a good practice, so we did have those bound, and they did a nice job, so that we'll always have them. So, again, as other projects, we do have some old books in there that really need to be attended to, but the company we worked with the town reports, we weren't very happy with, so we are nervous about passing on old books that need some love and sending them away somewhere and not knowing how long it's going to take to get them back. So we'll look at other companies and utilize the money for that. Planning Commission Fund. This is the bank account for the Planning Commission Zoning Board. So when they run legal notices, legal ads and things, it all gets paid for. Any kind of fees that have to do with the zoning board, that income gets put into this account. So it's strictly for their use.
Building permits, et cetera, go into there?
The town of Andover does the building permits, but subdivision and things of that nature, if anyone applies for a conditional use or a variance, those fees all go into that bank account. Andover Project Committee, that money is still there. The project committee did or some folks that were on it did approve last year donating some of the project committee money over to the scholarship fund, because it started as, that's what the money was for, is to utilize to give scholarships, and the scholarship fund actually was separated out so that they could sign up and be a 501c3 for people who wanted to donate.
I had a question about that back when I looked at the town report.
Mhm.
Why are you or the town manipulating the money or holding the money for the scholarship fund? It's a separate 501c, correct?
It is.
So it's its own entity, correct?
It is.
Okay.
It honestly doesn't take a lot of my time, and
It's okay, I'm just asking.
No, I know. They didn't assume that I would. They did ask me, and I said, I'm already reconciling all these bank accounts. It takes me a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I can punch out for the 15 minutes.
No, that's not where I'm going with that. No, I didn't know. I thought it was pretty much completely separate, so the town is kind of just, the town, you really, but the town's just doing it as a nicety.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
I just wasn't
And
sure.
honestly, it helps keep more money in this whole umbrella account, which helps our interest rates also. Let's see, next one, cemetery fund. So anyone who purchases a plot, the money goes in there. And this money, we also, as you all know, set aside money each year in the budget to put into here. And the biggest expenditure, of course, is the mowing and upkeep of the cemeteries each year.
Yes.
How do we get more money in the cemetery fund?
When it's budgeting season, the cemetery commission is absolutely welcome to come and talk to the board about the needs you might have, and give them an idea of what that might cost, and ask them if they would put more money in the budget.
When does that season come up?
Starts in November.
Not town meeting.
Wait, have you been reappointed to it? Oh, you don't know yet?
I talked to Nick, Tuesday morning of voting,
Mm-hmm.
and he was okay with it, and I went and talked to Hank after the last select board meeting, sorry about that, and he was fine with it. So the two of them had to get together and discuss it, and Hank was gonna do that, and I asked Nick at one point if he'd heard from Hank, and he hadn't, so I called, and I texted him, and then I called him on the phone and explained why it was up to the two of them to decide, and I don't know if they have or not.
Well, thanks for.
Right, thank
Yeah,
you.
congratulations, hopefully.
We'll see. I haven't heard otherwise, so.
The health reimbursement account, that is the account that you all may remember, pays for the deductible for the employees who are utilizing the health insurance.
Right.
And that money just gets transferred from the general fund into that account. And usually I usually try to keep around $5,000 unless I'm aware that somebody has something big going on. The Adela Standard Poor Fund account. So those are special accounts that were set up. Gosh, Linda, how long do you think those were set up ago?
A long time
Decades
ago.
and decades.
Yeah.
And the purpose of it, Adela Standard was a woman who lived in town, and the idea of the fund was in some ways a little bit like the community fund. It's to help a neighbor in need, and the account hasn't been utilized in a really long time. And the investment part of that account is there are some bonds, some really old bonds that you keep getting little dividends for each month, and so it sits. But certainly, if anyone's aware of someone who might need something, you all would be deciding if that money could be utilized to help someone. So keep that in mind, because I think, again, having it just sit, if there is someone who could use some assistance, some one-time assistance, it might not be a bad idea to think of ways we could utilize that. And then the last thing is the project committee also has petty cash. So people come in and buy hats, t-shirts, and when it gets to be more than, $100 or so, then I just deposit it into the project committee bank account. And the project committee account gets used to buy supplies for Green Up Day, hot dogs and things like that. And at town meeting, when we have food, if we need any kind of plates, napkins, and things, if we need more coffee, Deb will come and ask for that money for that. And when t-shirts and hats get reordered, the cost of that comes out of the project committee bank account, and the sales from those go back into the project committee account.
Do you sell a lot of those?
We sell them really regularly, you know, summertime more than winter for sure. The hats are really popular.
Yeah.
Very popular.
The
Look,
t-shirts.
Mr. Broad Street is modeling one.
Right, there we are.
There you go. Bad boy. Get him up on camera.
And yeah, we started carrying, yeah. The t-shirts we did get in smaller sizes, and they've been very popular because people have been coming in asking for shirts for their grandchildren and things. So Susie Heiler stays on top of all of that and gets those ordered. And
they're cute.
Yeah, they are.
They're very cute.
They're very cute. And I think, yes, that's the bottom of bank accounts. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Jeanette. That's awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for going over that.
Yeah.
Happy to do it. I'm happy you were interested.
Well, it's just kind of nice to come together and have a nice explanation
Well,
of it
and
all.
I'll keep thinking of different things. I think doing some sort of a financial update at least once a month is a good idea, because I think you all should have a level of awareness of all these things, just because
And how
things work, and because I will try really, really hard to be as transparent as possible, because I'm the main person that touches all the money in and out. So it's important to me to make sure that you all know that I do it all very openly and above board, so that there's never any questions.
We appreciate it. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Moving on to the road commissioner's report.
The truck is coming.
The truck is coming.
Sorry,
We've been waiting for those words to come out of somebody's face for a while.
Yeah.
Have you seen it yet?
No.
No? Is everybody excited about it rolling into the...
Yeah, Josh said he just didn't come to the deliver Woodsies now.
Yeah.
Right, I know.
Beat up the old one.
You're gonna get it all dirty driving it up here tomorrow. And salty.
And when will he the old one is going to be traded in, so when do they?
They don't take that
Until they bring it back in a second.
Yeah.
Good.
And also, any question?
No.
Charlie and I worked over a bid proposal for paving.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's gonna hit the paper Wednesday.
Yes, it'll be in this Wednesday's paper, so you all will be looking at paving bids on, did we say the 14th, Chris, probably? 14th of April?
So,
Is that what it was? So you're having a pre-bid meeting next Monday for any of the interested contractors who want to come.
right.
Right.
And where are we paving?
From the campground around.
Campground up around the
Yeah,
outside of North
you
Hill.
could be very happy.
And up North Hill.
Up North Hill? Oh, my God.
Those potholes you were talking about?
But if the bids are a little high, you know what's getting cut first.
Maybe we could extend that like a half a mile. That'd be good.
It's worth coming to the meeting for that, right?
I don't care about the extension of
Robin, before you go to the next thing, can I say something?
Oh, absolutely.
It might be too late to say this, but I think that we forgot something a while ago, which was, there's like there's something, some people want to come and show us stuff on Thursday. What's that?
So part of the MERP grant,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
people from Buildings and Grounds Department are coming to do a site visit. You're welcome to join. Robin and Rich were planning to be here anyway, but if you wanted to come and walk around with them, that would be fine. It's Thursday at 1:30. So basically, they're coming, they're the administrators of the grant, so they're coming to actually see the buildings in person
I see.
and get an idea of, you know, what it is we think we're
That
wanting
we
to use the
ask
money.
for what's an appropriate kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and get a good sense of.
Do you all feel like you would like more eyes, or?
It's up to you. I mean, I'm not going to tell anyone they can't come.
Okay.
So it's up to, right.
Somebody has to be there.
I mean, I had planned on
That's
going.
the only reason I'm gonna be there.
Yeah.
They told me to.
Okay, I just didn't quite, that was one of those emails that we got.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you for checking to make sure
Okay.
someone's coming, that's good.
Okay, now we're down in financial orders.
I think.
And then, last minutes are in there too.
So we'll put that out.
Oh, you did that.
Do we have any correspondence?
We don't have any correspondence. I actually have a question too. You selected a firm to do the engineering for the MERF grant. Is someone going to craft a letter letting the other companies know that?
I hadn't thought of that, but I can do that. Yeah.
Were you gonna write a letter?
I wrote a letter to Hank.
And you sent it?
I sent it, it was well received,
Oh, good.
according to, Wanda,
Okay, good.
and so I think we're good.
And I'm jumping all over I'm not really allowed to jump around like this.
You're freewheeling right
We
now.
can't stop.
But can I just ask you, Chris, do you think, like, I've just been looking at, you know, the barn that's opposite Pettingill, is that falling apart again? Is it, or do we wait until something actually falls in the road, or?
It hasn't stopped anything over at Brook Farm.
Yeah, it was fortunate, actually, a big piece came off and it landed right on the side of the barn. So a piece of roofing, we were afraid we'd be down there at our mailboxes and get our heads cut off on a windy day or something, but, it hasn't happened yet. And then another piece landed all the way over near the house, so it completely crossed the road, but no one was injured.
And so it's not part of our agenda, but you could add it to an agenda if that was something you wanted to.
I think at some point last year, I was at a meeting where this was discussed,
Yeah.
and I don't think any serious actions were taken or can be taken.
We could always ask the homeowner.
Right. We could
I
add.
don't think we've done that, I don't know.
Mhm.
I would guess not.
And we did send a letter at one point. But we could do that again, but we'd have to add it to the agenda.
Yeah.
It's actually less dangerous now that, they had a piece of roof that was flapping all the time, and that was what made me nervous.
I'm just funny, it's way less dangerous now because a big piece of the roof fell off.
Exactly. That's how.
So we're in much better shape.
Can I make a comment? At one point, many, many years ago, the select board or whoever decided that if a building was falling down, that they could contact the owner of the building, and then they'd have 2 years to either fix it or tear it down. And that had to do with the barn that was on the other side of the road, this side of the house, that was falling down.
Yeah.
Is that lost, or is that ordinance still in effect?
I don't know, we'd have to, again, probably add it to the agenda just to look into it.
We
Because
could
we
certainly
couldn't
ask
make any,
the,
but we could,
zoning board,
yeah,
kind of their department.
right.
Joe will be back next 2 weeks.
Mhm.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for being